Which is the most difficult climb in Britain? Is it Hardknott Pass in the Lake District with its brutal 33% hairpins on an ancient Roman road? Or is it Rosedale Chimney in the North York Moors with its longer and straight 33% section staring down at you from high above? To work out which is the most difficult, let's dive deep into the stats and deeper into the layout and characteristics of each climb to work out which is the most difficult climb of the two. Let's look at the key stats of both first. Hardknott Pass is 1.38 miles long or 2.22 kilometers, averages 13.3%, has a max gradient of 33%, has an elevation gain of 961 feet or 293 meters. Rosedale Chimney is 0.83 miles long or 1.34 kilometers, averaging 13.6%, max gradient of 33%, an elevation gain of 555 feet or 167 meters. So these starting stats tell us that the gradients are very similar, with Rosedale Chimney being slightly steeper on average, but the max gradient is the same. But with Hardknott Pass being 66% longer, surely that means that Hardknott Pass is more difficult. Well, let's not come to any conclusions yet. Let's dive deeper into the numbers. If we divide the climb into 100-meter sections, this is where Rosedale Chimney shows a stronger hand at being the more difficult climb of the two. The steepest section of road on Rosedale Chimney averages 24% compared to Hardknott Pass, which averages 20%. 4% may not sound much, but when you go above 20%, it exponentially gets more difficult. The difference from 8% to 12% is not the same as 20% to 24%. This 100-meter stretch is a big tick in Rosedale Chimney's favour in the debate. The difference is smaller, but Rosedale Chimney wins again for the steepest 300-meter section. 20.7% on Rosedale Chimney compared to 19% for Hardknott Pass. But once we increase it to 500 meters, Hardknott Pass wins with 17.4% compared to Rosedale Chimney at 16.6%. This leads me to the thought that Hardknott Pass will test your endurance more than Rosedale Chimney, which will test your max power more. But with that thought about the short steep sections of both climbs, I wanted to look at the nature of the road layout, specifically the part where both climbs reach their max gradient of 33%. The stats here may say they are both the same at 33% each for the max gradient, and there isn't much to discuss here, it's a draw. But when you consider the road layout for both 33% sections, it paints very different experiences. Hardknott Pass's 33% part is on the first hairpin on the inside of it. If you are smart and lucky enough to have no traffic on the other side of the road, you can avoid the steepest part by taking the outside line. Still crazy steep at around 25%, but 25% compared to 33% is a massive difference. So there's a good chance you won't actually cycle on the 33% section of road unless you are unlucky with traffic. So effectively, the max gradient is 25%. Now, if we look at Rosedale Chimney, it has two hairpin bends, just like Hardknott Pass, where you can do the same trick and go on the outside to lessen the gradient. But the steepest part of Rosedale Chimney is not the hairpin bends. It's after both hairpins on the straight section where there is no escape from the 33% gradient. So you have to endure and suffer up and through the max gradient of 33%, which is brutal on the legs. There is a big difference in the max gradient now, 25% compared to 33%, an 8% difference. When I cycled up Rosedale Chimney recently, I was fresher and fitter than I was back in May cycling up Hardknott Pass during the Fred Whitton. That 33% section on Rosedale Chimney had me in more trouble than Hardknott Pass. If you isolate just the part where you are at the max gradient. But when it comes to the whole climb, there are many more things to consider, so we'll continue to dive deeper into both climbs. Luckily, on Rosedale Chimney, after another 50 to 100 metres of suffering, the gradient drops down to around 10%. But that isn't the case on Hardknott Pass. After the steep hairpins, the gradient stays around 18% for 250 metres, really testing your high-end power endurance, your VO2 max. And bear in mind that Hardknott Pass has two extremely steep and difficult sections compared to Rosedale Chimney, which only has one. Hardknott Pass starts straight away with the first hard section, which is 700 metres at an average of 15.85% and a max 25%. So you've already emptied the tank a lot before you reach that second and more difficult section. The stats of that second hard section are 400 metres at an average of 18.5%, maxing 25% unless you are unlucky and have to take the 33% inside bend due to traffic. This second section is shorter than the first by 300 metres, but nearly 3% steeper on average, and you are far less fresh at this point, despite the easier middle section where you can catch your breath back for 600 metres. That easy middle section may still average 9.66%, but you'll be amazed at how easy that feels in comparison to the first section. The last thing I want to consider in this debate is the road surface. Neither surface is perfect, but Rosedale Chimney definitely has the better quality road surface, and it is a wider road in comparison to Hardknott Pass, especially on the steepest parts of the climb, making weaving up the climb and navigating any potential traffic much easier to do so. Where Hardknott Pass in parts looks like it hasn't had any road maintenance on it since AD 2 when it was first built by the Romans, and it is much narrower, often single track road with passing places, making it much more difficult to weave up the climb and navigate any motorist brave enough to tackle this mad mountain pass. If you tackle Hardknott Pass on Fred Whitton Day, you won't have to worry about traffic as it is closed for the event. So, after that deep dive into both brutal climbs, what is my conclusion? Which is the most difficult climb in Britain? Well, Rosedale Chimney I feel has the most difficult sections of climbing if you chunk it down into smaller parts. It's steeper and there is no way to lessen the max gradient. You have to tackle it head on. Your highest power will be tested to a greater extent than Hardknott Pass. But when you look at Hardknott Pass as a full package, it's far more relentless and breaks you down over a longer period of time while still being insanely steep. There's just much more steep climbing on Hardknott Pass compared to Rosedale Chimney. So I'm declaring that Hardknott Pass is a more difficult climb between these two 33% monster climbs. Do you agree with my assessment of both of these climbs? Share your thoughts and experiences of both in the comments. If you'd like to watch either of these climbs in full, check out these two videos here. If you've enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe for more UK hill climbing content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Up another climb on two wheels.